Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ralph World. I'm Mac, and with me, as always, is
Uncle Britt.
And today we are going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Spoilers and all. You have been warned.
Yes, spoilers abundance. We will probably be starting with spoilers right from the start. That was one of the reasons why we wanted to wait. We wanted to give people a chance to see it. We are recording this at the 3-week mark. This will probably be going up around the 4th week mark. So if you haven't seen it, I'm willing to bet you've probably been spoiled by the internet already, but also, depending on how things go, this may also be our first R-rated episode. So just be aware of that, because I've got some things to say about this.
Some thoughts and opinions.
Very strong opinions. The first thing I want to talk about, and this is more for me than anything else, I think I've already talked to you about this a little bit, is that going into this, I knew who the TVA was. I knew them. I don't have Disney Plus. I never saw Loki. I didn't see Loki season 2. So I knew who the TVA was at a very base level because that's the whole like what the show's revolves around. But what is the void and what is that cloud? Did you see season 2? Do you know? Okay. Because for anybody who hasn't seen it, who hasn't seen season 2 and has seen Deadpool and Wolverine, remember, spoilers abound. Let's start with that, because that's going to give me a better idea of where they were coming from with the void and that cloud, because quite honestly, those were kind of generic. I thought they were just made up for this movie.
So the void, I definitely understand how it could come across that way of just feeling like it was just a place made for this movie, because it very much became a very heavy reference point, or like references.
Yeah.
But in Loki, it's in the beginning, you know, when people would get zapped and that's how you get to the void? Like with a stun gun, basically.
The pegging, yes.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember that.
Essentially, that's just where things go when they're deleted. Like, if you think of it as a laptop, it's your trash can. You deleted it, but it's still there.
Okay.
And then the cloud is the thing that erases what's in the trash can. That's the thing that, like, clears out the void.
Does it have a name? Because I don't think they named it in the movie.
I don't remember what it is.
Because
it's pretty irrelevant to plot so far.
Cassandra referenced it, but I don't think she ever named it.
Alof? Something. It has a name. I don't remember what it is.
Okay.
But the gist of it being is that it just cleans up the void.
Okay. It's a Zamboni.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's much more threatening in Loki, I gotta say, than it was in Deadpool. Because, like, in Deadpool, in Loki, it's the immediate threat that it is coming for you directly. Because, like, when Loki goes there, you're under the impression that not a lot survives in the void. Okay. Or if it is alive, it just recently got there kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then that thing is just closing in on it constantly.
Okay.
So it felt like this immediate threat when you got sent there.
Okay. Whereas
in this, it kind of felt like if you had a car, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, because there were cars to be had. As a matter of fact, we'll be talking about that too. And maybe if we get to the point, like, I told you a little bit about this before we started the episode, but like I had my own plot of what was going on, and we'll talk about that possibly later. But right now we're just going to focus on the movie as it stands. And the internet, being what it is, has exploded with best comic book movie, greatest movie, blah, 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 blah. And I've told you, I'm not even sure this is the best Deadpool movie. I very much liked 2 better than this one. I know there are some people that they say 1 is the best. Honestly, I think 1 and 2 can be interchangeable. Like, some people will think 1's the best, some people will think 2's the best, and I understand some people probably think Deadpool and Wolverine. But there was a lot of, like, dead spaces in it that we'll talk about. That there were some things that didn't really work for me for it, and one of them that I'm just going to say from the start is the pacing of it. Like, they started production on this before the strike. Then there was the strike. And then the strike was over, and they were like, hey, we got to get caught up, and we got to And to me, this did show that there was a rushed feeling to this. Because for me, the pacing was all over the place. And the first thing that I would have taken out, not that I would have taken out, but the first thing I could have done without in this movie was the whole meeting with Happy in the beginning. That was slow, that went nowhere. Because then once you got out of that office, you went to Deadpool feeling sorry for himself, working at the car dealership. And the only thing I kept going back to was the second movie when Blind Al said, "I'm sorry, I can't hear you with that pity dick in your mouth." Okay? And
I did like watching him staple a toupee to his head, though.
that was fantastic.
And then the staples just stayed in there.
I won't take anything away from that. That was fantastic. But then like it went to the birthday party and I think it was only made worse by you came off of the best 10 minutes of any Deadpool movie ever that started this with the desecration of Logan's body and the the literal dance battle.
Hold on, it's not even just the desecration of the dead body. It's that the opening of the movie was... Everyone's asking, how are we going to do this without ruining the legacy of Logan? We're not. Like, that, I got to give them that. They saw that coming, and they just steered right into that skid. And like you said, what it led to was one of the best things in any of the Deadpool movies. That whole fight, cutting back to him dancing... phenomenal.
Beating people to death with Logan's adamantium skeleton, and then he puts the claws on.
Yeah.
And he gets stuck with the claws when he was like, "Wait, hold it, don't move."
Oh, that was good crap, man. But like that's the biggest praise I will give this movie before delving into my critiques, is that it was fun. Like, it was funny. Like, there were good jokes in it, and to me, it was fun to just laugh at. Like, I didn't, and to your point, it had weird pacing a lot of the times, but when it did hit those set pieces or those moments, I felt like it did good in those scenes. It was just a lot of the in-between scenes of how do we get them to go to here? How do we get these people together? How do we do X, Y, and Z? That the in-between is what was lacking for me.
And I feel like the more I thought about it, and I honestly had this thought when we were walking out of the theater. We saw it together, in case you haven't figured that out. We actually saw it opening weekend. We saw it the second day. We saw it Saturday, right? And walking out of the theater, I had this thought that like there was something off about it from the other two movies, and I couldn't put my finger on it until like the next day, that like, despite having the record for the number of F-bombs dropped in a Deadpool movie, this was to me anyway, this was a very MCU Deadpool movie. Like, they didn't push the envelope as far as the other two movies did, I feel. Like, they didn't, it was very gutless. It was very toothless. Like, even the fights, for having fight between Deadpool and Wolverine, was largely bloodless battles, was largely bloodless fights. Like, I keep thinking back to the fight from Deadpool 2, one of the ones that stands out the most. Whenever X-Force lands, all of them are killed except for Domino. And then there's the fight on the prison truck when Domino is driving and Cable lands and Wade is driving that truck upside down. And like, just like the imagination and the ingenuity and like the possibilities that you can do with mutants in that fight. And then it ends with Juggernaut ripping Logan in half. Deadpool ripping Deadpool in half in a pretty grotesque manner, which was awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but like, or even going back to the first Deadpool when he hacks his own arm off to get away from Colossus. Like, there was nothing like that in this movie. And like, we're talking about a movie where Wolverine is standing there with 2 katana and baby knife shoved in him, but it was clean. You know what I mean? Like,
and now that you're saying that, the whole fight at the end of those two versus the Deadpool Corps, like, you could have really just had limbs going everywhere because it still would have played the exact same. After they all go down and they turn around, it's like, did you forget who you were fighting?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like, the fight with the Deadpool Corps, I think, was the biggest disappointment to me because you had so many possibilities that it just basically turned into a side-scroller beat-em-up video game. Now, I will admit that the one moment that was hilarious was when Wolvie was just like, clawing them and Wade was just behind him pushing him forward. Like, you could have still fit that into the fight. That was funny. But, like, they built up this Deadpool Corps and then did nothing with them.
And I don't know if I'm in the minority of this, but I actually liked the nice Deadpool that Ryan also still played, that never put a mask on. But I liked him more than any of the corps.
Who apparently had no real superpowers.
Oh my god, that was so funny though. When he gets shot and they pull him over and they're sitting down, I was like, how long does it take you to regenerate? Regenerate? Oh no.
And Logan's just like, you idiot, you killed him.
They just keep using him as a shield. Like, that's what I mean. Some of the best moments are the jokes. And to me, that's always where Deadpool shines. Whether it's a grotesque joke, a drug joke, whatever, it's the jokes that really stand out to me. And this movie had a lot of them. My favorite being, at the same part, actually, when they're just going back and forth and Deadpool breaks the fourth wall, and then Nice Pool is just like, I can lightly tap the fourth wall too. The proposal.
I thought your favorite was the Fox reference.
The Fox reference. That was my favorite up until that one.
When he headbutted the camera.
Oh my god. Dude, that to me wasn't even a scene in the movie. That was just the perfect meta critique of the whole outside studio situation of just like, F you, Fox. I'm in the MCU now. Just headbutts the camera.
So before we get too off the rails here, okay, I have some things. I have a bullet point so
he has some notes
so we can stay on track, because we are very well aware that we can really go off on tangents. I became very much aware of this in the last episode when I had to edit out about 45 minutes of us rambling. So
you'll never know though.
So I have bullet points and notes that we can go over, and the first thing I want to talk about is actually Wolverine himself. Okay, because let's face it, he was the driving force behind this one. This whole movie was made just so that Wolverine and Deadpool, or Hugh and Ryan, however you want to look at it, could get together and do this movie. First of all, I remember I had to explain them to you afterwards. I'm very curious, not being a comic reader, not being a comic fan, how did the montage of Wolverines land for you? Because I know where all of those different versions of Wolverine came from, with the exception of two that were made pretty much just for the bit. But like, how did that land for you?
Well, obviously, I knew it was references to other Wolverines to some degree, whether they were from the comic book, made up, whatever. I understood the premise of what that whole scene was about.
Okay.
I wasn't able to pinpoint most of them, like the one that didn't have a hand, and you said that was Apocalypse.
Age of Apocalypse.
I have seen that one, but I wouldn't have gotten that if you hadn't have told me.
Okay.
The comic book accurate version
was hilarious.
Hilarious. Like, no criticism to that part.
And he was talking to him like he was a little kid. Oh, you're going to light up a cigar?
But I thought it was cool. It was cool to see other versions of Wolverine, and the fact that they all got to be played by Hugh Jackman.
You did pick up on Old Man Logan, didn't you?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I thought that was the
I
one
haven't read it.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what the pretense to that plot arc or just that arc is. But, I mean, him sitting on the porch, I was like, that's Old Man Logan.
I thought that one you picked up on, yeah.
I picked up on the one where he fights Hulk. When he jumped out and he actually, what he said, like, oh, the brown and whatever suit.
From the John Byrne run.
Yeah, that, I didn't know John Byrne, but...
He was the artist.
Well, I figured.
Okay.
But when he jumped out, I did actually catch that one. That was the one where I was like, it's the one with Hawk.
Well, I gotta be a little bit, I'm gonna be so pedantic on this one right now. And the only reason I'm being pedantic is because Ryan reads the comics. Like, he knew who Deadpool was before he did X-Men Origins Wolverine, that I'm surprised. Like, I'm not being pedantic as in, well, actually, it sucked because of this. I'm being pedantic because I'm actually surprised this slipped by. Wolverine in the brown suit never fought Green Hulk. He fought the Gray Hulk. And I was just like, you missed one.
Hey, you let your comic book freak flag fly, all right?
Well, no, it's just like, it amused me because I was like, you missed that, Ryan.
I'm better than you, Deadpool.
Because, like, he fought Gray Hulk in the brown suit, and every time he fought Green Hulk, he was wearing the tiger stripe suit, which was kind of the suit that he was wearing in the movie. And I'm not entirely sure. Wolverine has more suits than just the two. There's the tiger stripe, which is the suit, his first suit. Everybody just refers to it as tiger stripe because it has the stripes on the side. Then there's the brown suit, which is kind of like the John Byrne suit. That was like the one that he came up with. The one that he wore in the movie, I feel like, is more akin to his astonishing X-Men suit, which is kind of a variant of the tiger suit. And I'm being really pedantic now. Like, I really like the X-Men. I don't know if that...
Was anyone expecting a full costume breakdown?
The other thing that I really liked, and I was so glad when he extended the blades fully for the first time, that they did a close-up on it, because I liked how they were actually like the comic blades. In the Fox X-Men movies, when the blades came out, they looked cool, don't get me wrong, but they were basically like the straight blades. When they came out in this the first time, when he had the knuckle dusters where like the blades came out of, do you notice there was like a little hook at the end that they sort of came out and then like angled down at the tips like real claws do? Yeah, they've never done that before, I don't think, in the X-Men movies, that they were always just the straight blades, which was a way that like some artists draw them, but like there's a very like iconic look that they just sort of come out straight and there's like little hooks at the end like actual claws. So I thought it was cool that they redesigned him that way. I had a blast during the Wolverine montage of sitting there and getting to go, Age of Apocalypse, X-Men Fever Dream. You know what I mean? Like, Patch. Patch. I was like, yeah. Grey Hulk was in that too.
He actually said that live when that came up. You audibly said, Patch, Grey Hulk?
Did I really?
Yes. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't know who Patch was until it cut to his face and he had a patch on. And like, obviously I wasn't going to say it out loud, but in the moment I was like, Wolverine's name's Patch, okay.
You know what's funny about that? In the comic, he thought he was in disguise.
That's phenomenal.
He put an eye patch on and went by the name Patch, and to him that was going undercover.
Did anyone recognize him?
Everybody recognized him.
Okay. Good, okay.
It's just, that's how little he cared about being undercover.
I mean, hey, when you're immortal...
What do you care?
The worst that happens is whatever government puts you away for a couple years, and then you walk out, possibly with metal in your arms now.
So, we already talked about this with the way, going back to like our Wolverine topic here, we already talked about this, that like they just addressed the whole, how are we going to do this without ruining Logan? We're not. But even with that joke, I still don't think this takes away from Logan. I know there are some people that are upset that they're like, oh, so now Logan means nothing. I'm like, Logan kind of means everything. I think I said this to you on the way there, that to me, being a fan, yeah, let's just get that out of the way right now. I'm one of the few that like, I actually am a fan of the Fox X-Men movies.
That's not to say he thinks they're all good.
No.
Dark Phoenix was duty cheeks.
Yeah. So, like, when I think of the X-Men movies in order and the movie that ended the series, to me, even though it came out first, to me, it's always going to be Logan. Like I'll watch Dark Phoenix and then Logan happens after that, and to me, that's the end of the series. But I don't think this takes away from Logan for a number of reasons. One, Logan was the end of the story. To me, this is kind of the epilogue. The other thing that I think people are taking this way too seriously, it's Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of exists on its own to begin with.
Not to mention, he goes back and kills himself at the end of 2 before taking the Green Lantern role. Not the same universe at all.
He kills an early version of Deadpool, and then he kills an early version of Ryan Reynolds. Like, you can't take this seriously.
And even to that degree, it's a comic book movie.
Yeah.
One of the best-selling comic books and moments ever was the death of Superman. Who's alive?
Followed quickly by the return of Superman.
Like, no one stays dead in comic books. And I understand this isn't a comic book. There are real actors attached to this, and you do want to celebrate their run of a character. I get that. But that Wolverine didn't come back. Like, part of the whole plot to the movie was the fact that this Logan was the anchor being, which I don't know if anyone else took it this way, but I sort of took that as a meta joke because Hugh Jackman was the anchor actor to the Fox X-Men. But, like, they don't bring him back. They don't bring that Logan back. They barely even continue doing anything in the same universe. Most of the movie takes place in the Void or with Deadpool's people, which I'm sorry, that is in that universe, but it's not with any of them.
No, and the whole, I don't know, like, I didn't even see this as, like, a realistic continuation of that story. Like, they did that gag, they did that joke, that's fine. If I have any criticisms of the Wolverine in this movie, it's that he's basically the same character from Logan. Yeah. He's lost the X-Men, he's, borderline alcoholic, and then a person comes, gives him a pep talk, which if that doesn't tie directly back, we'll talk about that in cameos, if that doesn't tie directly back to Logan, I don't know what does. Like, he basically had the same story arc. And that's like my one critique of it. However, I do appreciate that they just created this version of Logan. Because when they were doing the montage of Logan's, I was wondering which Wolverine are they going to pull. And even when I saw the trailers, and there was in the first trailer, they said this is the worst Wolverine, he let his people down. The comic fan in me started going back and going, okay, well, which Wolverine are they pulling from? And just creating a new version, because to the best of my knowledge, they did just create a new version of Wolverine. That's the best way to go. That's the way to go, because if you would have used any of the other ones, you would have been fighting the fandom of the ones of the, well, actually people.
And
that are
honestly, it's too late.
Yeah.
Like, let Hugh... like, we kind of have to swallow a little bit here, because me, including myself here, we wanted Hugh Jackman to come back.
Yeah.
We did. Like, whether people think it was a good idea or not, we wanted another Wolverine movie. Whether it was with Deadpool, whether it was in the MCU, whatever we could get, we wanted Hugh to be a part of the MCU. That's what we wanted. We just wanted us to see it and him to experience it, honestly. Because after Fox and everything, it would have just been cool to see him with this established team that didn't fizzle out after one movie or two movies, I guess. Like,
he was in every X-Men.
He was. The team wasn't.
Well, in one, they were in the 3, and then he was in Days of Future Past with the team, old and new. So
but it was always sporadic, is what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't always the same team members, and a lot of them got recast.
Well, for the younger version,
well, still, that's what I'm saying.
But then at the end of Days of Future Past, he came back with the original cast.
Yeah, and that went where?
Hey, man, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. The, oh, man, I completely lost track of what I was talking about.
But we wanted Wolverine back, but at the same time, Logan, it was a really, really good send-off to the character. So what do? You either give Hugh a different version of Wolverine, and like you said, you have to have that fight with fans, or you basically give him the same Wolverine, you just change a few things. And in my opinion, I think this was the way to go, to give us that same Hugh performance, but still let him try something a little different.
The difference, I think, comes from that, like, a lot of his attitude towards fighting and killing, despite this being a largely, okay fight movie, was that there was, like, more of the berserker in him, which we never really did see in the Fox movies. I know there are some people that would argue and say we saw it in X-Men Origins and maybe we saw it in the Wolverine, but when he said lines like at the end when Wade asks him, have you been saving all of the good stuff? And Wolverine says, only for the killing. And he's smiling when he says that. Like, that's more, to me, that portrayed more of like I don't want to say a bloodlust Wolverine, but one that's like, killing is my business and business is good type character. You know what I mean? Like, he has a little bit more of that berserker mentality going with him, which to me was more of a touchstone back to like giant-sized X-Men #1 when he first joined the team, and he was the wild card. He was the one that was out of control. He was the one that, like, you weren't really sure how he was going to respond to a certain situation. He was the one that would try to kill Magneto. You know what I mean? So, like, I did appreciate that he portrayed himself as being more violent, as being more bloodthirsty, as being more apt to just killing, than even like of the version of Wolverine that we saw in the Fox movies. Then the last 2 points that I have on him is, I know what has been said since this movie came out. I do think this was supposed to be the last time. I do think that originally this was going to be a one and done. Because I feel like at the end, when Deadpool says, am I going to see you again? And he just goes, nah. Like, you're not. Like, I think, and the way he was looking at Wade, but he was also looking at the camera. I think that was originally supposed to be he was going to take Dogpool, walk off. Oh, no, wait, did he have Dogpool when he walked off? No. He was just going to walk off, and he was going to walk off into the sunset. I feel like the ending was changed at the last minute, that maybe that was one of the reshoots, that they were like, no, we don't want to let go of him yet. And then, like, because as soon as this movie was over, Feige was real quick on, oh, we got plans for Hugh. And I'm like, stop. And I think, and we talked about this as well, I think there is going to be the on-screen handshake. I think there's going to be the passing, that, like, they will recast Wolverine eventually. It'll be this multiverse wibbly-wobbly stuff. A younger version will come in, and Hugh's Wolverine will either die again or he'll just retire, and he'll hand it off to a younger version of himself, and it won't be just Logan handing off to Wolverine. It'll be Hugh handing off to the new actor and basically telling the audience, this is your guy now, it's okay.
It is a bit crazy to think about that, though. He has effectively now been through 3 different universes as the same character. Because there were the 2 different Fox universes, and now the MCU. And I guess it's not the same Wolverine now. But, I mean, the man has literally been Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like, he is Wolverine up till this point. And if we're going to move beyond Logan, there has to be that moment.
Yeah.
Because if it, like, say he never comes back, this is the last movie that we see him as Wolverine, I'll be upset if I see Wolverine show up again and it's someone else.
That's the thing. Like, whoever gets cast next is going to have an uphill battle. And I think, as an actor, I think Hugh is very aware of that.
Yeah.
I think he is very aware of what the fans think of him in this role. I think he is very aware of what internet culture is like right now. And I think he is very aware of what could potentially happen to the next person to play this role. That I could see him being like, yeah, I'll do this. We'll hand it off.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put my seal on it. Like, we'll do everything we can to make the path clear for the next guy coming in.
To me, this is a rumor. I don't actually know if it's happening, but if it's true, to me, this is how the Hulk and Wolverine movie could play out. Because it's kind of the beginning and the end. It's a reference to where he originally came from, but it's also that stepping stone for Hugh to be like, okay, it's your turn now. Whoever it is.
Well, what's funny is you say at the beginning and the end, the first appearance of Wolverine was fighting Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last appearance of Wolverine, Old Man Logan, he was fighting Hulk.
Doesn't he get eaten by Hulk?
Well, we're not going to get into that, but yeah.
I had a notion there.
But he claws his way out, literally.
Well, I mean, yeah. Why wouldn't you?
So,
You're
like,
Wolverine.
It's like you just said, it started and stopped with Hulk. And if all things being equal, I would be like, I don't know how well it's going to play, because now they're doing Smart Hulk with Ruffalo, and it's kind of like, But Red Hulk is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see them using Red Hulk for this, because Red Hulk, from just a little bit that we've seen in the trailers, is going to be very much Savage Hulk. So it may be him going against Red Hulk if they do a Wolverine versus Hulk movie. So I could see that happening. And that's really all I got for Wolverine. Like, there are other things that we could talk about. Oh, though the one moment, well, there were actually two moments that kind of like just stopped me in my seat. But the first one, when they were in the car and he was just going off on Deadpool. The one that, I can't remember everything that was said, but like, it was the one that ended with, it's all a cosmic joke, but the joke is on us because you can't die and we have to live with you. Like, that was like just crushing. You know what I mean? Like, everything he said, I was sitting there going, holy cow, we're doing this. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, remember, we're talking about spoilers. The other one that just...
You're halfway through the episode, but spoiler alert.
The other one that just, like, shut me down, just stopped everything. The world literally stopped. Is when he reached back and he pulled the mask on and he was in full costume. And it was the first we ever saw him in full costume. And it was like... This, to me, that moment was worth the movie, to be completely honest, because we haven't even gotten into a lot of the issues that I have with it, but like, I did say it's worth it for Wolverine and Deadpool together in this movie, and like, that for me was worth the price of admission right there. That they had ripped the sleeves off, he was the bare-armed, had the gloves, the mask, it was...
I didn't even notice like the mask wasn't there, or like it was a thing that was a part of the costume because of so much of the movie had gone through.
Yeah.
So when he did reach back, my first reaction was, does he have a weapon? Because I thought he was reaching for something, and then he started coming up, and then I saw the like horns or whatever the crap they are on his mask.
The blowjob handles.
Yes.
As Deadpool called them.
But I saw those start peeking out, and then I saw you out of the corner of my eye leaning forward in your seat.
Did I?
Yes, Rob. Come on now. We were sitting here watching it like this, and then he starts doing that, and you... like it was a two-tiered lean forward.
I didn't realize I did that. Okay. All right.
But that just felt so good. Like, seriously, it felt so good to see him put the mask on and then beat the crap out of so many Deadpools. But...
So, the next thing I want to talk about, and this is something that I didn't realize I was going to worry about until after the movie was over, and that was his photo. Okay, the 9 people in his life.
Okay.
Okay, then we had Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we had Peter, Blind Al, how do you pronounce his name? The cab driver.
I have no idea.
Dopinder.
Oh.
Dopinder, Colossus, Negasonic, Yukio, and then Buck and Shatterstar. My first issue with this is that those were the people that have been through this series. Okay, they were in the first movie, they were in the second movie. They did absolutely nothing with them in the third movie here. And I think that was kind of a raw deal, especially for Vanessa and Negasonic.
Yeah.
I hated the forced estrangement plot line that Vanessa and Wade just broke up. Like there was absolutely no purpose for that.
It didn't even serve to push him out of it because he was still like he wasn't happy even with all of his friends.
Yeah.
Like it was needless.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, truth be told, so were almost all of the people there, except Peter.
And like, why Shatterstar and why not Domino?
Yeah.
Okay, like Shatterstar, like I thought Shatterstar was dead. So did he just go back and save all of X-Force, not just Peter? Because like we only saw him save Peter.
Yeah, because we only care about Peter, but he saves all of them.
And then Buck. First of all, I think Buck was there to replace T.J. Miller. Weasel, because they had a falling out, plus there was the allegations against TJ Miller. So I think Buck was a stand-in for TJ Miller. But also, I completely forgot about this until I was watching Deadpool 2 last week, that something happens, I can't remember if it was in the first one or the second one, I want to say it was the second one, where Buck says something, and Wade says to him, "No more speaking roles for you." And he didn't say a word in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of like, especially when you got like Negasonic there, like they did not play off of each other at all except for that wig joke. And
honestly, they weren't even all that plot relevant.
No. And I get that there was like this tidal wave of cameos, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I really feel like they could have done something with them. Like, for as long as the movie was like a good over 2 hours long, wasn't it? That for as long as the movie was, and for the pacing issues that they had, I feel like they could have taken a lot of those slow moments of the pacing and cut them down, because you do need to have like downtime. But I feel like there was like some very awkwardly spaced downtime in this movie that I feel like there should have been this B plot of he was in the void with Wolverine and the Cameo Squad fighting Cassandra Nova, while like meanwhile the B plot could have been the people that were still in the universe fighting Paradox to try and stop it. You could have had those two teams working. Like, what do you think of that?
I think it would have worked, but I do see how it would have been counterintuitive to Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, the whole premise of this movie was a buddy cop movie, or not buddy cop, a buddy movie.
Yeah,
it's Deadpool, Wolverine. I think it would have just been better to remove them from even a significant role from what they had. Like, have them be in the beginning, like they're his friends. Don't just have them be void. But we didn't need that long of the beginning. Yeah. We could have just jumped into this, genuinely.
And that kind of goes back to what I was saying, that like the first 10 minutes was hilarious, or however long the dance battle went. And then there was the scene with Happy, and then you went from the dance battle to the office scene with Happy, which was really slow and really a downer and really meandering. And then you went to him and Peter in the car dealership, with once again was really meandering and kind of just an exposition dump. And then you went to his birthday party and you had to suffer through that, and him blowing out the candles and making the wish and finding out that they broke up. That it was like, when are things going to pick up? Okay. And then even when the TVA does show up and they take him back to Paradox's place, like, even that meanders a little. That like it didn't really pick up until the Taylor scene.
Literally, when Deadpool shows up is when the movie picked up.
Your Taylor is a predator. I like it.
The montage really got me, though. Like, they were doing the whole thing, and then he just squeezed his balls, and then they kept doing it, and then he squeezed his balls.
He kept patting his ass and squeezing his nuts.
But I mean, that just goes to show you, these movies shine with Deadpool. That's the power behind the movies is Deadpool and his jokes and the fourth wall breaking.
But there were even slow points when he was
and I agree with you. I'm just saying there was so much of him outside the costume in this one.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted more Deadpool, less Wade. And this one felt more Wade.
And I think I know what they were trying to do. I think they were trying to establish that he had hung up the costume. This is who he was. This is who he was now. And he wasn't quite the same guy. And, like, he was a little bit more lifeless. And then he gets the new suit and the new weapons and everything. And all of a sudden, he's back to being who he was. I get that. We've seen other movies where they do that. But you don't, like, just cram, like, a missed movie's worth of depression. Like, it feels like there should have been another movie in between 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine.
You know what they could have done?
What?
Instead of making me spend money to go see Deadpool 2 with that stupid holiday special, and then they cut out all the R-rated stuff from the second one.
You are so bitter about this.
I wasted money and a Tuesday night, Rob. But they could have done a special where, like, it was Wade giving up the suit and living that mundane life.
But doesn't it feel like there should have been, there was a missing movie in there somewhere?
It literally felt like there was an MCU TV show I should have watched before. Like, that's...
Like Loki.
Yeah. Like, that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like there was something missing from that aspect from this movie. It honestly felt like there was too much. But that's so weird to say because, like you said, his ensemble from the previous 2 movies built upon itself.
Yeah.
Like, from the first to the second one, the taxi driver got more involved. Negasonic was more involved. Yukio was still...
The taxi driver took out the main villain in the second movie.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? He just came driving out of nowhere and ran him down and was like, woo!
Yeah.
So, like, because I was thinking about that, who the 9 were, and when I started looking it up, some of them didn't make sense. Like I do think Buck was a replacement for T.J. Miller. And the only reason I can think that they went with Shatterstar rather than Domino is because it was cheaper to bring in the dude that played Shatterstar for this cameo than it was to bring in Zazie Beetz. Was that her name?
I believe so.
Yeah. That was cheap. That, like, her price tag was too high on that. But
which is crazy to say with some of the other cameos.
He was killing our budget. Which that takes us, let's just get to the cameos now.
Yeah, we got to talk about it.
So the first one,
for me, at least the one that I remember being the first one, they got me. They fully did. I thought it was Cap. They showed me a blue suit underneath. I was like, here we go. My man's back. And then he cursed. And you can ask him. That was when I knew. He cursed. And I was like, nope.
Yeah, but what happened before that?
But slightly before that second, you had audibly said out loud in a joking manner, what if that's Human Torch? Or no. Yeah.
I said, what if it's the Human... I turned to you and I said, what if it's the Human Torch? And I think I did say it a little out loud, or a little louder than I meant to, because the couple that was sitting on the other side of us went, "Aw."
They thought you knew. But yeah, then he jumped down and he cursed, and I was like, wow. That, you gotta understand, age range for me, the Fantastic Four movies were like some of my first comic book movies, period.
Well, they were some of the first comic book movies.
Like
that was part of, like, the beginnings of what would become the MCU, because there was Blade, there was the first few X-Men movies, and then there were the first 2, then there was the first Fantastic Four movie. We're not talking about Fant Four Stick, but, like, that era was when they were trying to figure out what a comic book movie actually is.
How do you balance camp with genuine action and
Yeah.
heartbreak, and yeah. So, and I don't hold these movies a special place in my heart, truth be told. I like them. They're very campy. They're very fun. But I fully understand they're more than likely going to be lost a bit to time. They've made better movies. They're probably going to make a better Fantastic Four movie because we know we haven't gotten that one yet.
They're filming it right now.
Yes, and not, the reboot sucked.
Fant Four Stick.
Yeah.
I got to be honest though. I thought when Pyro drained him of his flame and he fell out of the sky and first like just cracked his nuts on the bar and then landed on his face, I thought he was dead at that point.
That would make sense.
I didn't think that he was being taken captive. I thought, well, there goes Johnny.
Well, I mean, really, nothing happened after that point besides his little monologue. And we all know he was going to stay for that monologue.
Then we have, let's see, there were some cameos that I was very excited about, that I was very happy to see. There were other ones that I was kind of confused on, and we'll talk about that. That, like, first of all, there was Tyler Mane coming back as Sabretooth, which I was hyped about that. I was happy about that. I was kind of disappointed that it turned into just a run and cut the head off, but at the same time, like, what else was I expecting? Tyler, he's also kind of up there in age. I think he's pushing 60 at this point. He may not have exactly been, set for a fight like that. Then there was not Ray Park as Toad. Did you know that?
Not Ray Park?
That wasn't Ray Park. That was Toad.
I didn't think it was until you said it was.
Well, Ray Park played Toad in the original X-Men movie, and the guy that played him was Daniel Medina Ramos, who was, I guess, one of the stunt coordinators, who just happens to look like a young Ray Park, so they dressed him up as Toad. And this happened a few times. That this is what kind of I was curious about, that they had some people come back and cameo as the characters they played and did nothing with them. But then they had some characters come back that were recast, and they kind of became central characters in the story arc. One that I'm thinking of specifically is they recast Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Okay. And he had, I don't want to say he was like important to the plot, but he had lines, he had close-ups, he had his own fight scene. But then they also brought back, what's her name? Kelly Hugh to play Lady Deathstrike, and she was just in the background, and they did nothing with her. They also brought back Callista from X-Men 3, Final Stand. That was like
Last Stand.
Last Stand. That was like one of the, I think those were supposed to be the Morlocks. I'm not entirely sure. That was like part of the gang that Magneto found. So like they had actors that had played prominent characters in the old movies, and they were just like background characters. But then the ones where like a character was recast, they gave lines in a close-up, and I was really curious as to why they made that distinction. And then you had Aaron Stanford that came back, and he reprised his role as Pyro, which I didn't exactly hate, but he was also kind of like, that could have been anybody.
Oh, yeah. There was two that I didn't know were coming at all. I don't know if you're doing these in any sort of order.
No, but before we get to that, the one that I wanted to talk about, because everybody is losing their mind about it, and we missed it during the Wolverine montage, was Calverine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good old Calverine.
There are so many people online that think that is a sign that he's going to be the next Wolverine.
No. I can see him coming back to do maybe a longer type cameo, but I don't see him doing it. I don't see him wanting to do it.
I don't see him wanting to do it. I don't see him having the time to do it right now, because like he's in full producer and star mode for the Warhammer 40K Amazon series that he's working on, which is very much a passion project of his right now. And I don't know, I feel like after the DCU or the DCEU and then The Witcher, I just feel like he's kind of done with that type of thing for a while. You know what I mean?
I don't even blame him if that were the case. But it was
hilarious.
For a movie that was all about bringing Hugh Jackman back, I did not expect them to have anyone else be a Wolverine.
I know.
But as soon as he showed up and we were only seeing the back, and it was like, they haven't refused a single shot of showing Hugh's face.
Yeah. And then, like, Deadpool just straight up called him Henry Cavill.
The Cavalry. It
Cavalry,
says it in the movie. And then it's
come on, we'll treat you better.
Better than the studio down the block. All just for that jab.
What else did we... Okay, so go on with the two that you were going to talk about.
The two that fully caught me off guard were Blade. I did not know Wesley Snipes was coming back at all. Like
neither did I.
Like, that was a pure moment in the theater where I was actually a little, like, I didn't have any air, because it was just like, is that...
Now, imagine if I hadn't made you watch those movies.
Yeah, I was about to say, not to mention, I think it was like within the past 2 months or so, I watched the Blade movie for the first time. So I got it. I got those references, especially when Deadpool was like, he never liked me, or he doesn't like me, never have. And then the other one was Channing Tatum as Gambit. And that's not really a comment on me, like, loving him or Gambit or anything. I don't know that much about the character. But he was hilarious in this movie. Not as Gambit, I guess, because he really didn't exist. But some of the jokes of them talking about, yeah, I never really felt like I had an ending, you know? And it just didn't feel like I had closure. And then you cut to him. I kind of feel like I just was born here. Didn't really ever watch the Ben Affleck Daredevil Elektra stuff.
Don't.
But it was pretty cool seeing Jennifer Gardner get all muscular and in a tight costume, I guess.
What I was upset about with those movies, going back to like the Elektra, is that like when she made those movies, she was at the height of her power on Alias. Did you ever watch Alias? No. She kicked ass in Alias, okay? And that's what we thought we were going to get when she was Elektra. We did not get that when she was Elektra, because, like, you have to remember, this was the same company that when they were filming the Fantastic Four, they told Jessica Alba, you have to smile, or you have to cry in this scene, but still be pretty while you're crying. Like, that was their thought process on, like, the female superheroes at the time. So I feel like they sort of did the same thing with her. Like, well, you're an assassin, you're a ninja and you're an assassin, but we still need you to smile. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas, like, if she would have been allowed to do basically the Elektra we saw, that we got a glimpse of in Deadpool and Wolverine, is kind of the Elektra that we thought we were going to get, because, like, that was like full-on Alias Jennifer Gardner right there when she was in, where it was more serious, more, we're just going to go in there, I'm going to stab some people, you know, and we'll call it a day type thing. So, like, I was very happy to see her get a chance to redo Elektra, because also I feel like when she was Elektra, she was way too young for the role, because you were supposed to believe that, like, she was this woman that had lived all of her life training with the hand, becoming a ninja, blah, 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 that, like, I always got the feeling that when Elektra first showed up in the comics, that, like, she was easily already in her 30s, whereas, like, when Garner did it, I think she was, like, in her early to mid-20s, and she just didn't look... You know what I mean?
It was hard to believe the character she was playing.
That, like, because at this point, like, there was supposed to be, like, this, like, just trail of bodies behind her in her past. You know what I mean? So.
And then there was one other cameo, which I think to us was the most important one.
I am so upset that they spoiled this one in the trailers.
If I didn't know she was in the movie, and she walked out when she did.
That would have been a punch in the heart.
Like, especially after Blade.
Yeah.
And then Elektra, and then Tatum. And, and then her. Like, it could have stopped at those three, and it'd been like, okay, yeah, I see how these three were functioning, blah, blah, blah. But then she comes out, and I did see her in the trailer. Or I saw a still image from the trailer of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear any of the lines that she said. I didn't know any of that part. So when we did get to that scene with her and Logan talking by the fire, that was a bit of a gut punch still. But
we are, of course, talking about Daphne Keane, Laura Kinney, X-23. That
who should be the next Wolverine?
She should 100% be the next Wolverine. I don't think Disney will do it. I don't think they'll have the stones to do it. And I think, honestly, I feel like one of the reasons that they're not going to do it is because they don't want to deal with the whole, oh, go woke, go broke crowd.
I can see it.
When meanwhile, she would kick so much ass as this.
And for all intents and purposes, already got the handoff.
Yeah. Seriously. And in the comics, she took on the role of Wolverine when Logan died. Enough with that rant. But the reason that Feige gave for putting her in the final trailer, well, we wanted her to be able to come and, see the premiere. She still could have gone and seen the premiere. She was in Logan. She knows Hugh Jackman. It would not have been outside the realm of believability that she would have been there. You can't tell me the only actors that show up for a premiere are the actors that are in the freaking movie. Yeah. You know what I mean?
If Wesley Snipes showed up, okay, I get that.
He was there.
But I mean, if we didn't know, if there was nothing about him being in the movie and everything, and them having that same concern, I can see that because he is fully disconnected.
Yeah.
But
that's the thing. He wasn't in the trailers, and he was at the premiere. So why was that any different?
But that's what I'm saying. That one I can understand more for having that concern versus Daphne.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I see. I'm with you.
Was I confusing?
No, I was misunderstanding what you were telling me.
But her coming back and getting her to see her fight again, that warmed my heart.
Dude, when she put the glasses on, and you remember, man, I was sitting there and it was getting up for the fight, and I was like, if they kill her, I'm walking out. If they kill Laura, I am out. I am done with this movie.
You also audibly said, I hope she wears the glasses.
Did I?
Yes. Because it wasn't something I even remembered from Logan.
Okay.
You said it out loud, and then it was the next scene.
She pulls out the shades and pops them on. Now, and I loved that line. See, this goes back to what we were talking, or what I mentioned before, that it's basically the same character arc for this Wolverine as it was for Logan. So much to the point that it was even the same person that gave her the pep talk. But
gave him the pep talk. But that I kind of don't mind, because that kind of fits. That he was the one that as he was dying, he told her, go forward, be who you need to be, get away, live your life. That she took all of that and she comes back and she's basically trying to build him up. And I loved the line, you were never the right guy until you were. Meaning you've told me this before, and then you end up being the guy I need you to be. And I was just it was just aw. It's also just slightly optimistic moment here, but it's also a really nice lesson to say look, it's not some chosen person that's the right guy. It's not this prophecy of this correct person. It's someone made a choice.
In the current zeitgeist, where it seems like every hero is a chosen one anymore. And sometimes that works. Avatar, sure, that works. That's the whole premise of the show.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But the entire world doesn't revolve, but the entire world works with that. It's not just, the entire world's established. Hey, there's this random thing in a cave no one ever talked about.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, this is something that works and it has rules and it changes and blah, 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 blah.
And then that leads to Logan just deciding, I'm going to fight. I wasn't there for my X-Men team. I'm going to fight.
And what an entrance coming out of the trunk of a car.
I'm not even going to try and act like that was cool.
They had to knock him down a few pegs. They knew the shirtless scene we were going to get later.
So those were the main cameos. There were other cameos through there. Like there was the Russian from the Punisher movies. There was the Punisher's rocket launcher, which I love that like they didn't get a Punisher, but they got his rocket launcher. And then there was just so many Easter eggs scattered throughout it.
Oh, yeah.
That, of course, there was the 20th Century Fox logo.
Very subtle if you didn't see that one.
Yeah. The car that they were driving, there was the Fantastic Car, but then, like, that big hot rod was Red Skull's car from the first Avenger, painted in Tony's hot rod paint job. What? What? I was like, that looks awesome, but why?
Look, you asked that question. The rest of us are asking, why was Thor crying over Deadpool's dead body?
But then there was also a Thor helmet in the void. There was a Chitauri Leviathan ship that was crashed. There was the castles of Asgard in the background from when Asgard blew up. There were two things that I had to look up that I found out that were there. One of them was the Leviathan. I didn't see the Leviathan. I saw Thanos' ring ship in there. There was a helicarrier that was crashed. And apparently Hydra Cap's shield was in the void too, and I missed that completely.
Hydra Cap's shield.
Yeah.
Like when Captain America was part of Hydra?
Yeah. Oh, you don't know about that storyline?
I do from the comics.
Yeah.
But he had a special shield?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, because when he went Hydra, he changed his costume. It was more of a green Hydra-looking costume. And the shield that he carried was more of like the triangular, like, kite shield that he originally had that had, like, the Hydra symbols on it. And apparently that was in the void somewhere, but I missed that.
Well, there are better people at finding every reference and Easter egg in this movie than we are.
Oh, and I don't know if you saw it either, but there was, like, I guess somewhere an Ant-Man corpse was somewhere in there as well.
Yeah, it was somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure where it placed, but I do know we saw it more than once.
So Cassandra Nova's base was in a giant Ant-Man corpse, which I thought was brilliant. Like,
great idea.
That cracked me up in ways I can't describe, and I don't know why.
To me, that just goes back to what I was saying earlier, that these movies shine best when they go full Deadpool. Like, just have wacky crap going on. You don't need to know where that giant version came from.
But I couldn't help thinking, is that a commentary to the Ant-Man franchise right now after Quantumania?
Very likely. Very likely. I thought, as for a movie villain, I thought Cassandra Nova was quite creepy. I don't know her comic book counterpart or anything, but as for the actor and whatnot, I thought they did a really good job. I thought they were very creepy, but also, like, charming.
Yeah.
Like, it almost lured you in, even though they were deliberately telling you how, like, stupid you were.
There's a couple more cameo things that I want to talk about, but we will get to Cassandra Nova. And I do agree with you, because one of the things that I thought she did really well is this wasn't just an evil villain that was like, I'm Charles Xavier's twin sister.
Pause for a second. Just so you're aware, she is non-binary.
I
just said she, but they are non-binary.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't realize that. It wasn't just that they were playing a supervillain that said, hey, I'm Charles Xavier's twin sister. That charm, that persona, the way she carried herself, like, you could believe this person was related to Xavier. Like, they had a lot of the same quirks, but they were also able to make Cassandra unique and their own character at the same time. So we will be talking about that because I have some thoughts on that as well. But there were some cameos for the Deadpool core that I want to talk about that at first off, I didn't realize Nathan Fillion was the voice of Headpool when we were watching the movie.
That's awesome. So he was the one with Blake Lively that was like, Uzis, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was Nathan Fillion. Matthew McConaughey was Cowboy Deadpool.
That tracks.
Okay.
Didn't know that, but that tracks.
Blake Lively, of course, was Lady Deadpool, or at least the voice of Lady Deadpool. And then Inez Reynolds, his oldest daughter, was Kidpool. And then Olin Reynolds.
The most vulgar one of them all.
I know.
You know she had a blast saying those lines.
And then, like, Olin Reynolds, his newborn, his youngest, who I think is, like, almost 2, was Baby Deadpool. And I was watching that, and before we knew it was his kid, I remember we're sitting there, and I'm like, are we going to see Deadpool and Wolverine kill a baby? Like, I know he'll regenerate, but I just kept thinking back to the post-credits scene in Deadpool 2 when he was, like, debating whether or not he was going to kill baby Hitler. Yeah. And then he was like, you know what? I'll bring Cable back. He loves killing babies.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have Gordon Reynolds as Nice Pool.
What?
Gordon Reynolds was credited as Nice Pool. That's his twin brother.
Oh.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's his made-up twin brother that he played when he was interviewing himself.
Yeah, I put that together.
Okay.
That interview was funny.
Yeah, but if I didn't realize it in the credits because I was looking to see Blake's name, that, he credited Nice Pool as Gordon Reynolds.
That is very funny. The proposal.
The fuck? You think that's what I'm doing here? And I know we talked about it already, but that was a fantastic moment. When do you regenerate? Regenerate? Oh.
Just the whole bit. Him using him as a shield, running to the other side, Wolverine standing up with Dogpool and just walk.
Everybody's like, hold up!
But oh my god, when Peter shows up and they're all just like, Peter! You guys know Peter? We all have a Peter. What? Peter is that important to the Pools?
Did you notice that when they were leaving them and they were all gathered around Peter, one of the Deadpools, for whatever reason, shoved his fingers in his mouth?
Yeah, dude. I pointed that out to you. That was so weird. I was watching and I kind of just looked in the background and someone did that. I truly want to know if that was scripted or not, or one of them just like...
I'm betting one of them just went for it. Oh, yeah.
Peter has never done anything wrong. I'll just say that now.
He's only been in one other movie.
And?
Briefly.
And?
Okay.
He caused no problems.
One of the cameos that I was waiting for, and I think I was annoying the hell out of you for the whole thing, and like it completely got me. I fully believe Taylor was in this movie.
I didn't.
I for some reason, I had heard the rumor that like she was going to be in it, and I thought Ryan had confirmed that. I don't know if I made that up in my head or if I heard an internet lie. A lie on the internet?
Never happens.
But like I kept waiting for Taylor to show up and make a cameo. So
spoiler, she didn't.
She didn't. She did not. So, bringing down to the thoughts of the movie in general, and this is where I'm probably going to start to shit on it a little bit. Because, let's just say this, like, I do like it. I don't think it's the best Deadpool movie. I feel like there was a lot of faults to it. I felt there was a lot of weak points to it. We already talked about the pacing, but let's just talk about the plot in general. The plot was so weak and so paper thin. And I know what you're going to say, that like, well, they just wanted to have some reason to go ahead and do this, and they just wanted to have a fun movie. But I don't think that's a good excuse. I'm like, the quality that they put out with the first and the second one, they could have come up with a much more stronger plot as a reason to get these two together than just your anchor being died. And I understand what you said before, that it was a meta commentary that, like, once Logan was dead, the X-Men movies were done. But I don't know, it was just such a paper thin plot hole filled plot that I was like, I couldn't get into it because of that reason. Honest to God, there was like the whole narrative, I was just like, this is so boring.
No, the overall plot was extremely generic.
Mm-hmm.
There were several points where the plot was just save the universe.
Yeah.
That's all it became.
Yeah.
And then the whole movie taking place, or 80% of the movie taking place in the void,
Yeah.
kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Because when we had the Wolverine montage of him seeing different ones, that's what I thought the movie was going to be more akin to, was them going to different universes. And I guess I see why they didn't do that, because that would have just been the same as like Multiverse of Madness and Loki and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, the whole thing in the void was definitely a misstep.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to see him interact with people, not just one-off characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And the bringing those cameos in, something else that I was like really disappointed in, that I was like, this is what I mean by like, this was very much an MCU movie. That I really feel like if this would have been done with the creative team that designed the first two movies, that there would have been actual closure. Because remember, when they were getting ready for the last fight, or not the last fight, there was like 5 different endings to this movie. When they were getting ready to attack Cassandra Nova's Ant-Man fortress, they were talking about they never had closure, they never got an ending, they never got this, they never got that.
And they didn't.
I thought it was just going to be a slaughter. I thought they were going to do the big heroic, ending, which was why I was actually concerned that Laura was going to die. And nothing. As far as we know, they're all still alive. Because didn't he say to, what's her name from Loki that was checking out Peter, didn't he say something to the effect of, hey, I got some friends in the void, could you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one of them you see at the end in the one of the TVA screens, so it confirms they're alive.
Yeah.
Or at least that one is.
Yeah.
But then you also see Laura.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to assume that they didn't save all of them.
Yeah. Like, I was really like, you set it up for this big heroic final fight, and there was no final fight. Like, this is what I mean when I was saying that, like, the fights didn't have any weight. They were very toothless. They were very bloodless. Like, oh, one of the other cameos that was in it that I was, like, really happy she was there, but then they didn't do anything with, was Psylocke was in the fight, too. I don't think it was Olivia Munn that came back to reprise the role. But, like, when Laura jumped up with Juggernaut's helmet and then that energy whip came up, that was Psylocke, I think, bringing her back down. At which point I was like, Laura, X-28 or X-23 and Psylocke are going to go at it. Let's do this. Oh, okay.
Oh, I guess we don't need that. Whatever.
Well, and that was another thing that, like, and this goes to the pacing of it. This also goes to what I was mentioning about how I feel like the ending was very rushed. And, like, maybe the script didn't go through as many drafts as it should have. The whole Juggernaut helmet thing was useless.
Yeah.
That was pointless. What I would have liked to have seen, and I was even thinking this as I was watching it, because it's been established in the Fox movies already that, like, things can happen. When Cassandra Nova got into Wolverine's head and he was baiting her in, I mean, like, we know now that he was baiting her in, you could have taken out the whole Juggernaut helmet thing. You could have set it up that, like, when they found out they couldn't get a hold of Magneto's helmet, maybe they had a plan. They don't really explain it to the audience. One of those deals that you don't know what the plan is until it starts happening. That we know that when telepaths have tried to, like, mind link with Wolverine, if he lets them in and shows them the Weapon X project and what it terrifies telepaths, okay? So what I was really hoping was that when he was baiting her in, and it would turn into one of those moments of, I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. And he just opens the floodgates and he shows her the wars. He shows her the X-28 project and basically just mentally cripples her with that. Okay? And I would have really liked to have seen this whole last scene taking place inside Wolverine's head. And somehow you get Deadpool in there too. I don't know how. Or maybe like he's talking to Logan on the outside while Logan is talking to her on the inside. Because then you could have even done the whole thing whenever he said, no, I'm an X-Man. No, fuck it, I'm the X-Man. And he starts talking to her about what Charles did and showed him. And then like he could have just manifested Charles and been like, this is your brother. This is why I'm not killing. You know what I mean? Like there could have done so much.
This is who you could have been.
Yeah. They could have done so much more with that other than put the helmet on, take the helmet off. Like,
No, as you were saying it, the idea popped into my head that even as she has her hands in his head and everything, you could have had a really cool scene of him like sort of even halfway coming out of it and just like standing up and being like, do whatever. You're not going to stop me.
Yeah.
Because whatever she does is going to heal. She really can't stop them. Either one of them.
because
Well, you know, unless she atomizes them.
because and that's the other thing that like about her, that like apparently she can kill you with the snap of her fingers until the script decides they don't want her to do that anymore. Like, I get they were going with the shock factor with, you know, just flaying Johnny, but I hate when scripts do that you see somebody do something like that and then like an hour later they just forget they can do that. You know what I mean?
Because it's such a moment that stands out to us as an audience that it's hard to then go, well, why didn't you just do that again?
Yeah. And the only thing that I think, like, what they could have really had fun with that is the whole idea that he needs Wolverine. He doesn't need Wolverine. To be completely honest, you could have taken Wolverine out of the movie and the ending wouldn't have... It's just like the first Indiana Jones movie. If you took Indy out of the story entirely, nothing would have changed. If you take Wolverine out of this, nothing would have changed. Plot-wise.
Yeah.
So, like, it would have been really cool if they would have done something like they did with The Last Stand, where Jean was basically, like, dusting everybody and Wolverine was walking up to her.
Okay.
And, like...
You're talking about the only good scene from that movie.
Yeah,
Yes.
like, where, like, you could see... Imagine, like, that would be the reason why, like, we need him. That, like, she keeps trying to, but he just keeps regenerating and, like,
And I mean,
doesn't stop.
That was the idea with the whole hands in his head, and then he stands up, is like, go for it, but I'm still going to come at you.
Yeah.
And you really could have had both of them doing that. Like, you have Wolverine at the front, and she's going both hands and everything, and then Deadpool comes in, she's trying to get both, but both are too much.
Yeah.
Because that still plays into the same ending, that you want both of them together.
Yes.
That's how they make it through.
Yeah. Because that takes us to the end, that, like, you have this powerhouse of Cassandra Nova. You have these two powerhouses of Wolverine and Deadpool. Cassandra Nova is an Omega level threat. And I don't remember if they ever actually went into, like, the Omega levels in the movies. I think they might have touched on it one story in Apocalypse. But so you have this Omega level threat, and it just turns into who willed harder.
Yeah.
Like, the final confrontation was a huge letdown. And I understand that they wanted to do this thing where, like, Wolvie and Deadpool were working together to do it. But if it would have been... I feel like they could have done so much more if it was one of those things where, like, he says, I've been waiting a long time for this team up. You know, you could still have that emotional moment where they both know they're going into a fight that they may not actually come back from. You know what I mean? Because it's not like they saved Cassandra. It's not like they were like, hey, this is Chuck's sister. We need to save her. We just need to... She died. Yeah. So, like, they still could have, like, killed her off at the end of the movie.
And actually, you could have had a really... I mean, Deadpool does kind of have that moment, But if you would have had it where they both go into this fight knowing they legitimately might not come back from it, you could have had Deadpool have like a very real moment of just like, I get what you went through, when Logan or whatever he would have said, when Logan came out, I get it. Were you nervous? Like, you could actually see weakness from him and everything.
That was one of the things that I liked, that, like, at first they were playing it up for a laugh at the end, but then when he said, I'm actually kind of nervous about dying, because even though Wade has the regenerative powers, he had died once already, but then he came back, he was still very new to it, whereas Wolverine is like roughly 200 years old, that I feel like at 200 years old, there is a point where you're just like, yeah, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I've had a good run.
And there's probably a part of you, what am I trying to say? There's probably even a part, that word's throwing me off. Hold on. Sorry. Let me restart. There's probably a little part in the back of your head that's sitting there saying, like, you're probably not even going to die here anyway. What are you worried about? We've gone through worse things. A nuke dropped on us. We'll be fine here.
Yeah, that was like one of my top points on here, is that the ending was very meh.
I completely agree with that plot-wise. However, it did provide us 2 stellar scenes. His shirt getting ripped off.
I knew.
I'm a completely straight man, despite the shirt.
You mean when the costume just blew off his abs for no reason whatsoever?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Rob, because it didn't do anything to Deadpool.
It did nothing to Deadpool. He still had the mask on, he still had the pants on, he still had the gloves on, but the shirt just blew right off of his body for no reason at all.
And of course we get...
Oh yeah, when he leans back and he's checking when Wade,
their death scene,
and he's checking Logan out. Only topped by when he comes up into the offices of the TVA, and that one TVA technician was like, "Oh,
dude." The following part to that, though, like after everyone thinks they die, and the one guy's just like, I'm so sad that they're gone, but they died a hero.
Those were my friends.
And then Deadpool in the background is like, he has risen, baby girl! And then it cuts to them. They're slow-mo walking out.
And the TVA guy was just like, fuck!
Yeah.
Now, okay, speaking of that TVA guy, this is something else that I did want to ask you. I know the black woman, I can't remember what her name is. I know she's from Logan.
He is not.
Okay, that was going to be...
He was wholly original from this.
Okay.
Even the time splicer thing, I think, was new to this.
The time split... Oh, the time traveling cell phone.
Yeah. No. That makes sense. Not makes sense. That tracks. The machine that they're fighting over at the end.
Oh, okay. See, and that... Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay. What else do we got here? Let's see. We talked about the weak plot. Partially written during the writer's strike. None of the regulars made it into any point. Yeah. Talked about the fight scenes were being very to me, the fight scenes, with the exception of the first one, the dance fight, the dance battle, for me, like, the fight scenes were it was very much like Blade 2, where a lot of the fight scenes were CGI, or Black Panther, when Black Panther and Killmonger were fighting each other, that it was just 2 CGI models going at it together. Like, unfortunately, I felt that even during the Deadpool and Wolverine fight. I felt that for the car fight, which I thought that went on for too long. I definitely felt that for the fight at Cassandra Nova's fortress, that, like, I'm watching all of them fight, and I'm even in the back of my head thinking, were they even all on the set together when they were doing this, or did they just, like, splice and piecemeal things together? That they never really moved like a team all that often, and, like, it just goes back to the whole, they didn't do anything with them. They didn't get, like, the big, the Butch Cassidy Sundance ending, like the big Wild Ones ending, where, like, they go down in a blaze of glory, which is what they were very much building up to.
And truly, with the exception of Laura, I think she was the only one that didn't have that whole, like, finality feel about her.
Yeah.
And honestly, bringing her in just makes me want her more as Wolverine, not in a weird way. That
Okay. Good save. Well, it's like not to dwell too much on the comics, but it's like I told you in the comics, they're coming out with that new title, NYX, where Laura and Wolverine and Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, they're sort of forming this like Superman-Batman relationship that I think is just going to be fantastic. And she's finally getting her own title this year as well. So like they're doing a lot with her in the comics that I would love to see her become the next Wolverine. Like, and you figure she's only going to be 20 years old. Like, there's longevity right there. Because, like, I think Hugh was in his 20s when he took on the role.
I mean, that would make sense. Isn't he like 50 now?
Yeah. So, yeah, 30 years, yeah.
And, I mean, it's... She is in such a good position because she was in Logan.
She was in Logan. She was in His Dark Materials. She was actually... she was in The Acolyte, I think. She plays a Jedi in The Acolyte.
Good for her. I was just thinking, like, Wolverine Legacy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
Well,
no, I get what you're saying.
No, you know what? That just upsets me even more. Because she was in The Acolyte. She's already working for Disney. Of course she would be at the premiere. Why did they put her in the trailer?
But, like, that just... Because she was in Logan, and then she came back in Deadpool and Wolverine, and now has, at the very least, interacted with two different Wolverines, I don't see there being massive pushback on her.
I hope
like that, if for whatever reason the next movie is like, this is the Wolverine of this universe. Like, she has legacy with the characters.
Yes.
She didn't, desecrate them like Deadpool might have.
Yeah.
Like, I really want her to come back.
Yeah, and like they've really done, when they created her and they brought her in, I don't think they anticipated that she was going to be as popular as she was. She was originally designed to like just be a trained assassin, one of multiple clones of Logan, and then later you find out that she actually is his daughter. That like she was the one that they were making all of the other clones from. I think that's how it went down. Because there was always the question of how did they get Logan's DNA to clone all of these. And then you find out that Laura actually is his daughter and they were just making the clones from her. I think that's how that went down. And then Kinney, the last name Kinney, she took from the doctor that helped her escape from the project. I don't think it was Weapon X, but from the facility where she was being held. So I don't think they ever anticipated her being as popular as she is. So I think that's why they made her full-on Wolverine's daughter, just because the fans kind of wanted that. And then when he died, she took on the moniker Wolverine.
Because that can happen.
Yeah. Her costume looks fantastic. It's a play off of the tiger suit that kind of reversed the colors, that instead of it being predominantly yellow with like blue striping, it's predominantly black with yellow striping. I'll show you I have it in one of the comics. I'll show you when we're done here. But I would, and especially since they have Kamala Khan in the MCU now, I would love to see her take a more prominent role moving forward. And this leads me to my final thoughts on this, that I don't want them to bring the Fox X-Men into the MCU. I would rather see them start all over again. And I understand that, like, with the post-credits scene from the Marvels, they're kind of already hinting that they're going to be bringing those ones over. I do love the Fox era of X-Men movies. Not so much Fantastic Four, but I do really enjoy the Fox era of the X-Men movies. To me, this was very much a send-off to that era. I did get a little emotional in the end credits when they were playing Time of Your Life and they were showing all the behind-the-scenes footage and like the behind-the-scenes interview when Ryan Reynolds was saying, I'd really like to play this character to a greater extent someday. And like all of that, like I really loved. And I just feel like let that end. You have the rights. You can do whatever you want with them now. Let that end. Start over again. Don't bring all of that baggage with it. Just, you know what I mean? Just find a way to bring mutants into the world.
I think the way I will accept it predominantly, with the exception of Hugh Jackman, because apparently he already has more going on, if they keep it to what they've kind of already done, like in Multiverse of Madness, Professor X shows up as the ultimate version with that like yellow...
The Illuminati.
Yeah. So you have him show up, and you do get to see the return of that actor and the character, whatever, but he doesn't need to be important. He doesn't need to be this mainstay. He straight up got killed off.
Honestly, if they're going to bring a Professor Xavier back, McAvoy's old enough now. Just let him be the older version of Xavier. Like, if they're going to start doing that, because, like, we saw the trailer for the new movie he has coming out that was so impactful. I can't even remember what the name of it was.
Yeah, it's the one with the people and his kids.
And he's wearing a flannel. But
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah. But he's old enough now that he could play the older version of Xavier. So, and, like, still be there. Because, like, as much as I love Patrick Stewart, man, dude's old.
He is.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I don't want to even see him try to come back as anything significant.
Yeah.
Like, and I know Multiverse of Madness has its issues and people aren't on that bandwagon. I get it. Whatever. But it was nice to see him show back up. To have that, like, one tender scene where he is the one trying to reach Wanda and everything.
Yeah.
And then dies. But... like, I'm fine with something like that, but we also, like you said, at a certain point, you got to move on. Like, they just bought it.
Yeah.
If you want to do the cameos, do the cameos. So many fans have wanted this. We want to see these actors interact. But at the same time, I want to see Robert Downey Jr. interact with Hugh Jackman. I want to see Chris Evans as Captain America interact with Deadpool and Wolverine and Professor X, but all of these characters are gone.
Yeah.
So I get that I'm not going to see what I wanted, but if you want to do cameos and just be like, okay, look, they existed, it's cool, they're out there, they're not all dead, they're in a different universe. The Fox universe still exists, just not here. I can accept that. But like you said, maybe just this one phase that we're in, make this the cameo phase, make this the transition, whatever, pass the torch that you need to. But like you said, it's got to be new characters. Or actors, I mean.
I think they're going to wait until Secret War, but that's a completely different topic. We've been railing for a very long time. But there's only one other thing that I wanted to mention.
It can't be cocaine.
That it's definitely not cocaine.
Faki told us.
We can't do cocaine. Oh, and where is the... Oh, yes. I think it was very brave of them that on the same weekend that they talk about the multiverse of possibilities with the MCU and they introduce RDJ as Doctor Doom, that on that very same weekend, their #1 movie of the year is completely lampooning the multiverse topic and saying people are getting tired of it because he wasn't wrong.
No. Even in this movie, it was kind of tired by the end.
Yeah.
Now, they did do a good enough job that you did get cameos of places you weren't expecting, like Blade, Elektra, Tatum.
I like how you're not actually calling him Gambit, you're just calling him Tatum.
I mean, was he Gambit, though? I know you're more against it and everything, but, like... did he play Gambit, or did he play as a guy cosplaying as Gambit for a movie?
That's the thing. I don't get why people were taking that cameo so seriously. Like, his accent wasn't good, and it was meant to be a joke. Like, and there were so many things, like so much self-deprecating humor in that. And it's like you said, I think you even mentioned it already in this episode. I think I was born here.
Yeah.
I don't ever...
All the people we saved.
Yeah.
Or could have saved. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not crapping on Channing. I'm really not. I get that it's a character he's wanted to play for a long time. It's just...
Doesn't mean he should.
Yeah. Like, be a fan. You don't need to be him.
Like, I thought it was hilarious when Deadpool was like, "Excuse me, what? Your dialect coach, was it a minion?" Or like, I forget who it had to have been him when he like asked to turn the subtitles on or something like that. I was cracking up. It was like, but yeah.
But somehow people missed the several jokes about his bad accent.
I know. Or like that hair never moved. So, yeah. That's... I think it was a good movie. I can appreciate it for putting Wolverine and Deadpool together for the first time. Maybe the only time, depending on how things go. We don't know. Because I know... We both talked about it. We know Feige has said that Hugh has some projects still with the MCU. I just keep going back to that joke, until you're 90. But, like, I also think that Ryan, not necessarily that he's going to hang up the suit, but I think he's ready to step away from it for a while. I think there are other projects that he wants to pursue. His family, you know what I mean? Like,
arguably the most important project.
Yeah, his soccer team.
Which one of them was one of the Deadpools?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I forget which one he was, but yeah,
the one wearing the soccer jersey.
There was a Deadpool wearing a soccer. You have to understand, there were so many.
Yeah,
Deadpools
I mean, someone could make a list and just go through them, and I'd be like, I saw about 5 of those.
Yeah. But I think it was just too MCU. For me, I think it lost its edge. I don't think they pushed the envelope. They didn't do anything to push the franchise forward. I also weirdly think that they might have had too big of a budget. That like
I can see that
they relied too much on CG and special effects and things like that. That the first one, which I think the one reason why I think people love the first one so much more than the second one. I think the first and second one are both great movies. But the first one is just so tight. And there's no wasted dialogue. There's no wasted moments. Whereas this one, I feel like...
I mean, they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Yeah,
exactly. Allegedly, it took Reynolds leaking the tape to even get it to keep going.
Well, he's come out and said that he admits that he had a hand in making it happen, but he's not the one that actually leaked it.
Yeah, he's been saying that for a long time.
But I think at this point, if he had...
I think that's going to be something until he's actually done with the role. And then it's going to be like on that one talk show. Yeah, and then I leaked the video.
But I do, like, so... Yeah, and there was just... too much money, too long, pacing was off. It didn't feel as tight and clean and efficient as the other two movies did. That's my final thoughts on it. I did like it though. Like I said, I appreciate it for what it did with Deadpool and Wolverine together for the first time.
I think I think they were saying this during their press run, is that they don't consider this Deadpool 3. They consider this like a side movie because it's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay.
Now, whether that means there's a third one, I don't know. But when I look at it through that lens, I'm not as harsh about the movie because like a lot of the gripes with the other, like the ensemble really not being a part of it, and it more so just being an ensemble of character from old movies coming back reprising their roles.
An ensemble of cameos.
Yeah. And that has issues. I'm not saying it doesn't. The plot was very thin. And it doesn't excuse it, but for me it really was just a fun movie. Like I wasn't going in expecting Infinity War level plot line, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't expecting this to be the next big stepping stone of the MCU. I expected something to happen within the MCU because this was really the first time mutants were going to be prominent. But like you said, I think the first two movies as Deadpool movies are better than this one is. I think if I look at this movie individually, I just think it was a really fun movie that kind of looked back on the superhero movies that led to the MCU. I don't particularly even consider this movie a part of the MCU. It definitely has MCU-ism about it. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it did lose its edge. It wasn't the shining example of a Deadpool movie. It wasn't the third Deadpool movie. It really didn't even feel that way. To me, it genuinely felt like a Deadpool and Wolverine movie, kind of like a standalone title in a comic book. Like you still have Deadpool running by itself, you still have Wolverine running by itself, but everyone got together for this fun little crossover. Like that's just my approach to this whole movie, even before seeing it, before any of the criticisms. Mm-hmm. But I do agree with you. It could have been better. It could have been tighter.
Yeah.
They could have used characters in a better way. But the grace I'll give them with the cameo thing, we all knew that going in.
Yeah.
They were very upfront about this is going to have a lot of cameos. We know what cameos are. We knew what they were going to be. It wasn't going to be these long-running things like we knew Hugh was going to be.
Yeah.
But for all the criticisms, I mean, it's killing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It is
like,
killing it.
I'm not sitting here saying that, like, millions of people are wrong.
No.
And that, like, it doesn't deserve the money that it's making. It doesn't deserve being the number one spot. This was a long time waiting. This was a movie that, like, once Disney bought Fox, there was even the whole, will they even let an R-rated movie happen? Which that in and of itself, I think, is a big step for Disney. That maybe the movie didn't push any boundaries for the franchise, but I think this might have pushed Disney to say, like, hey, it's okay to make an R-rated movie every once in a while. And they need to have that mentality now that they're apparently just buying every freaking movie studio that exists.
But it'll just bring in a much wider audience if you can have that R-rated movie and then also that, like, TVA movie, or not TVA. Yeah. No, television adult. I was right.
Okay, sure. So, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for listening to our thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. I am Mac. You can find me at Brick and Tire on YouTube and Instagram.
I am Uncle Britt. You can find me on just Instagram anymore.
Oh, no more TikTok?
I don't do anything on there.
Okay. Thank you for listening. This has been Ralph World.
Ralph World.